unhappy. Show me what is love, is it the skies up above? Was it more intrinsic? Just convinced it's something you don't have. 'Cause I don't wanna feel like I'm wasting my time. And I don't wanna feel like I'm running over. I just wanna live my heart open. I just wanna feel like I'm in love. So how can we feel when this world is crashing in? And we're all afraid, yeah, we all feel lonely. I think I can say, man, I'm not the only one. No, I'm not the only one. Sit me down and clear my head of all these sounds, 'cause they're so distracting. I'm ready for you. Play me a song that the others all got wrong. They tried to cut me off from you. It's easy to feel wrong, but that's just human. It's easy to feel lost when you've got something to hide. And fear is just a word that don't mean nothing. It's just what we feel when we cover up the lie. How can we feel when this world is crashing in? And we're all afraid, yeah, we're all feel lonely. I think I can say, man, I'm not the only one. An illusion can win when you accept the truth within. And I can say, man, I'm not waiting anymore. Not waiting. Love is real, it's the default you instill, and everything else falls away.
And welcome to the show. Again, a nice intro by my talented cousin Brady Shaw. And you might have noticed we're on repeat now. I'll have to get him to make a new video. And yeah, it's a nice way to get people watching before I start talking. Anyways, how are we doing today? Today's topic is, can we talk? Can we talk? I'd like to continue some of the things we did yesterday with gratefulness stories that Susie brought up. I heard from Uncle Joe today with another good idea. Maybe we can start it today, maybe not, or we'll plan it where someone will come up here, one person will come up here, and the peanut gallery, which I'm going to refer to the comment section, the peanut gallery, it seems I didn't create that. They can ask questions and hopefully everything on a positive note for sure. And I think that's a great idea. So we can find out, we can learn about each other that way. And I don't want to call it the hot seat because I don't want it to be scary by any means, but just willing to share. I know I am. My favorite subject is me, so we'll gladly talk about me. But yes, I was kind of waiting. Actually, I have a few things, some housekeeping to do that has been brought up, and I'd like to address that for sure at the beginning of the show. But I'd like to wait till maybe a few more people come on, so there won't be any confusion about what I would like to say. But let's get maybe 10 people up in here, and it's nice to see Robert Henry Miller, Robert aka Henry Miller, Dan Wells, and Dennis. Good to see you guys. I guess I consider you regulars now, which very much appreciated. It's very much appreciated. Good afternoon, Dan Wells. Good to see you. I'm glad you're tuning in. Who else is out there before? Hey, Joe Shaw. Good to see you, sir. Yeah, I think we might even try your idea about we'll call it the hot seat or whatever you want to call it. Good segment. That's a good segment idea. So some of the themes we're going to be talking about is who are we grateful for in our family, which I think there are multitudes of stories. And another one is and another one might be tell us about yourself kind of deal, where people get to ask you questions. And again, hopefully from a positive perspective. Kind of losing viewers. We're kind of losing viewers. I was hoping to get to 10 people before I get a little bit serious for a minute or two. Just because I don't want to have to repeat myself. So what has anybody got anything? And I'm not even going to drop a link until then, because I just want to get, I don't know. I would like to get a few things cleared up. Good to see you, Randy. Thank you for stopping in. You're a regular also. Definitely part of the family, satellite guy that, love to see you come in here, Randy. I always enjoy your radical point of view. It doesn't make me feel as bad. Let's put it that way. So we're down to 7. I was hoping to get to 10. 10. Also, there's a good chance, which is going to kind of be part of what I'm going to talk about at the beginning. We might have a new viewer today. One of my favorite aunts, Celeste, or Aunt Joycey, when I called her as a little boy. I talked with Jay last night, and he's going to try. I sent him links to the YouTube channel, so I don't think she'll be able to make comments unless she has an account with YouTube. They don't have a Facebook account, but anyways, hopefully she's watching. This is actually one of the reasons I started the show is to get some history from some of our matriarchs in our family. We have a ton of them, and they have a ton of history, especially Celeste and Jennifer, who have done some genealogy and looked at some of our ancestry. So that's what I'm hoping will happen. And maybe after what I have to say, it'll make it easier or harder. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm not quite sure where this is going to go. I'm not quite sure. That's right. We're going to celebrate 420 on 420 in about 11 minutes. Forgive me if I don't partake. I don't really do that anymore. I just simply can't. It's not real good for my health. Even though I do enjoy it thoroughly, miss it, but it is what it is. So I was hoping for 2 more viewers before I do this serious segment. 2 more viewers. Who else is out there? I see Jennifer. Hello, Jennifer. Dennis, Danny, Randy, Joe, Janice. Hello. Mom, I should say. Robert is out there, I think. Oh, we're up to 9. So once we get 1 more, we'll get a little bit serious. Because I do get quite a bit of feedback on the show, and it's always usually very good. I get some really good ideas. Joe's good with that. Susie's good with that. Kaki's good with that. My mom is good with that. So I've had some recent comments or recent concerns, I guess I should say, that I would like to address, that I would definitely like to address. And I don't really know what it's going to do to the show. That's why it's going to be kind of, I don't know. It's a little bit unusual because I started this show. Let's just go back to where, I had no idea. Actually, I was going to help kids with math problems, and it evolved into this. And I think the best part of the show is definitely not this goofy guy in an orange sweatshirt, because I'm not funny. I'm not an entertainer. I'm not witty. And so it's about you coming on and talking and telling stories. I think that's the best part of the show. And that's what kind of I want to cultivate. And yeah. And I like, and what I think personally, what I think is, so I guess we'll kind of get into it a little bit. What I think is, makes it easy to come on the panel is that it's real conversational, and sometimes that's the detriment of what's going on, is because sometimes it seems to be a little bit too conversational. We tend to forget that there may be some sensitive ears out there. So I'm just going to jump right into, and I'm only going to say this because it's been brought to my attention multiple times. So I'm going to address it, and I guess here we go. And the topic is profanity in the chat, and profanity maybe on the panel. And I'm going to be real honest that I'm guilty myself. Actually, I enjoy spitting out a cuss word here and there, but I don't think it would probably hurt to maybe tone that down a little bit, especially in the spirit of all of my aunts who are up there in age, and it might not be as cute as it is to me. So we'll see how this goes. But again, I'm going to ask that we'll try, I'll use the word respectful for the older ladies in the group, and I want them to be comfortable up here. But so I'm not sure how to do. The last thing I want to do is be a censor. The last thing I want to do is be a nanny state kind of guy where I'm controlling what people say. And what I'm afraid is going to happen is that people will be a little bit reluctant to come up here if they're worried about how they're going to be judged by their words. And so anyways, I'm just going to put it out there that I think it probably wouldn't hurt anything, to think it more of about, because I know all of us had jobs, and in the workplace, I know we all we tone down our language. I think we all do that. So don't know where I hope it doesn't spoil it, and it might, and we'll just have to see. But one thing I definitely want to get across is that me personally, I'm not embarrassed or ashamed of anybody in my family. I respect everybody. We've all had our crosses to bear. From my point of view, my cross that I've bared was probably the lightest of anybody that I know. And I'm not going to make judgments on how other people are. So I hope that's really clear, that personally, the language to me doesn't bother me, but it does bother other people. And I don't want to be judgmental, but it turns out it seems to be offensive to some people. So basically, I would just like to clean it up a little bit. And some things might slip. I mean, I think 95% of us are between 50 and 90 in this group who's watching this crazy thing. So we're all kind of set in our ways. We all have had our filters. We've all had our life experiences. And I don't think it's too horrible to ask that maybe we try to tone it down when we're on the panel or in the chat. And definitely one thing I would never accept is where people attack each other. And so far, I haven't really ever seen that. So I'm really proud of that. But usually the cuss words are in context of conversations that, how we talk when we're together. So having said that, we'll see. And I wonder, and it could, I hope it doesn't, but honestly, if this is just involves me being up on a screen by myself, this show's not going to last very much longer. So I'm hoping it doesn't scare anybody away, and I hope we get more and more people coming up and getting on the panel and telling stories around our family or whatever, because that's what I'm talking about. And I hope nobody is offended. Nobody's embarrassed. But turns out, yeah, it turns out there's a lot of drama with 10 viewers. I can't imagine being popular and having, say, 100 viewers or 10,000 or a million, which some people do. I guess you got to be like a politician, and you got to have a little bit thicker of a skin. And I'm willing to keep trying this, but I just want to put it out there. Maybe we should I'm going to use it in terms of respecting our elders, because we can come off as a little bit gritty, I guess I want to say. So, having said of all that, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I hope that came out well. I actually didn't sleep well last night thinking about this, but I wanted to address it. So maybe just in the future, let's just try to, and thinking of in terms of Aunt Donna or Aunt Celeste or Aunt Khaki or my mom, some of the older ladies who, because I want them to be comfortable coming up here. I definitely want you to be comfortable, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see whether we just rained on the parade or not. But yeah, I don't want to feel like I'm working for a corporation again, or I have a boss, because most of our family rebels against that kind of situation, and I do too. Thank you, Uncle Joe. I'm going to put that up there because I like compliments. I do. So yeah, I just said that. Bam, I feel better. I feel like a ton better. I'm going to drop the link now, and if someone would like to come on, and again, some of the topics we are talking about, I think we have a number of them, is grateful stories for people who in the family who have mentored you, or you're grateful for what they, helping out in any kind of way. That would work. Also, I like Joe's idea of having maybe a 10-minute segment at some point where someone comes up and it'll be just you, or maybe me and you. I'd rather have it, because it's kind of uncomfortable, honestly, if you're just looking on a screen and it's just you. Trust me on that one. Yeah, and people can type in from the peanut gallery and ask people questions about themselves, because it turns out there's a lot of things I'm learning, and I want to hear more stories that don't involve me, because most of them, if I'm up here talking, I usually bring up topics that I remember, but I probably don't know 98% of the stories because I was not involved. So I want to open that up more. I hope my wonderful Aunt Celeste is watching. If that came on, I don't think she'll be able to make any comments right now, but that's okay for the time being. Let her kind of see what this thing's all about. And the link is posted. And again, I'll tell you, if it goes like 5 minutes where I'm stuck up here by myself, we'll just I'll hit the end broadcast button and be on my merry way. And I hope and this is at the risk of making people uncomfortable, but that's what it is. It is what it is, ladies and germs. So the topic is, can we talk? And that's kind of, I hope we can. I hope we can. I hope they can. But yes. So the link has been dropped. I'm going to get a little timer here. I'm going to start it, and like I said, I'm the last guy in the world to get up on a stage and try to entertain anybody. That's not in my wheelhouse. So I'm going to open me up a OtterPop. One thing I noticed today, I don't know if anybody else did, I did my little gauntlet run to the post office, as I usually do, about 3:15, and I've never seen so much traffic. It was real busy out there. The parking lots were full. People at stoplights. I don't know what's going on. It is 420, which I'm curious if anybody, what the big deal about 420 is. I'm sure somebody out there in the audience knows the history behind it, but it is a cannabis celebration day. Yeah, I would love to hear more about Danny Wells. I agree, and I don't know how much maybe someone else can give me some ideas on how we can prompt that and make it easier for that to happen. That's what I want this to be about, and we'll save it. It'll be saved on a YouTube channel and probably a while on Facebook. And I just think it's a good historical source. So, eat an Otter Pop. I love these things. One of my weaknesses. And once I get done, nobody's on here to show. I'll think, well, maybe it's we had a good little run. That's for sure. I actually have a lot of other channels I mess around with. So I can do it. Now see, this is what I was kind of afraid of. Is people are going to worry about coming on here now. If I could sing, I would. If I knew jokes and they didn't mess them up, I would do that also. I'm not that good. So, would anyone like to come on and be on I'm going to use the word hot seat and let us talk and ask people in the gallery to ask questions specifically about you? There we go. Thank you, David. You another thing is some people, I think David has mentioned that to me in the past before I let him on here. He said, I don't want to feel like I'm hogging the show. And we got Robert up here too coming up. And you're absolutely not. I mean, you're saving me. That's the way I look at it. Oh, look at this. Look at this. We're getting saved. Love you. And I was almost done. So I'm going to bring up Robert, Wooey, and Danny Wells. 1, 2, 3. Let's get this thing tightened up here real quick.
Hey, my audio is weird when I'm on my phone, but I am afraid. I think the way you interface on it was quite.
Okay. I'm getting the audio is really bad, Danny Wells. Sorry, that's one of these little glitches we get once in a while. Let's try that. Let's try that again.
I'm trying.
Okay, we'll get there. I happen to have another auto pop ready to go, just in case the show went longer than 10 minutes. Oops. Well, Robert, I like the UCLA hat. What's going on with that?
I saw it at a thrift store, and I just like to wear anything that reflects on California here in Georgia because it annoys the locals.
Yeah, when I lived in New York for a while, California has a kind of abundant a lot of jokes on the East Coast, probably in the South also, I imagine.
Well, the only reason I came on was to keep you from going off.
Oh, well, good. Well, I didn't try to go off. Did I go off?
Well, you were threatening to.
Well, okay.
It's like the story of a priest at Mass. At the beginning of his homily, he said, "How many people here want to go to heaven? Stand up." And almost everybody stands up. So then they sit down, and he says, "Okay, how many people want to go to hell?" One guy in the back of the church stands up. The priest looked at him and said, "You really want to go to hell?" And he said, "No, Father, I just didn't want you to be the only one standing."
That was funny. See, you got a knack for the jokes. Let me bring up David again and see if he's straightened things out. Yeah, maybe get the camera all set up nicely and be ready to go. How about that? Well, I guess I'm a little more technical trouble than usual. So yeah, we got Hey, David, start with the camera like ready to go. Would you do that for me? There you go.
I have my phone's not rotating. I can't. The picture's not rotating to a full screen, so I'm on a little tiny thumbtack up at the top.
Well, you're coming in good now. The picture's clear and your voice is good, so that's a good start. What you got to say, sir?
Nothing. I just don't want to hog the show. That's all.
You know,
I didn't want to see you up there burning either.
No, yeah, we were getting close. We were getting close hitting the end broadcast because I didn't know how my little spiel would go.
No, it was fine.
Was it reasonable? You think I offended anybody?
Yeah, I think so. There's going to be some slips every now and then. It's just some family, some people in the family that's they communicate using those words, and that's. It's a hard habit to break. I would hope it wouldn't keep somebody from coming on.
I hope not either. And like right now, when I'm looking at you, it's just real natural to slip into a conversation mode where we're just me and you together. And I think that's the good and bad part of this. That makes it easy, but it also kind of takes your guard down a little bit. I guess I should say. Yeah,
and I hate for somebody to be up there not feel like they're being themselves or having to change who they are.
That's what I'm kind of afraid of. And yeah, I don't know, but I got, I thought I should address it because it was probably a half a dozen in that ballpark of that concern was brought up. And I think one of the main points, like someone brought up earlier, what Danny Wells said is that, it's not the whole show, but I definitely want some of the elder women and all the siblings of Grandma Shaw and whoever else wants to talk about some of their memories that, like all the holes in Teresa, like with Cherry Valley, I think, or what was the real order of operations to go up to Chico. That it'd be nice to know that, how important it is. I don't know, but to me, it's interesting.
And I think it's a bit of a generational thing. I know that we cuss a lot more than our elders, but I see even the younger generation cussing even more than we did. I think through media and cable TV and the different types of streaming that they have, they're just exposed to it a lot more than we were, and we were exposed to it a lot more than our parents were.
But on the other note, I think we've heard our share of cuss words from a lot of them, but again, there's a right place and a right time. Like I'm sure on your job, you know better than to throw out some of the colorful language that we were known for. So I think there's filters, and I just hope it's not a big deal, but maybe we could apply some of those filters here.
I get it in my line of work. That it's freely accepted. That kind of language. But if you certainly you try to watch yourself, especially when you're around a different clientele for sure.
And I'm guilty myself. Actually, I enjoy a poetic F-bomb here and there. I think they're a good accent. You can definitely overdo it, but I enjoy a good cuss word. In fact, if you can string 3 or 4 together, I get a little bit of pleasure out of that.
It's kind of funny too, because I was thinking, stand-up comedians, you get the whole range. There's some that won't use foul language at all, and then and I don't know personally, I have a hard time watching those because I don't really see that they get their point across as well as somebody that uses a little bit of the language. But then there's ones that completely, that's their whole show, and I don't particularly like that one either. So I guess it's a personal preference.
And actually one of the most famous comedians known for being down on foul language was Bill Cosby, and it turns out he had his own little demons he was dealing with that were a little bit worse than cussing on stage.
I think I learned most of my foul language off George Carlin's album.
Oh yeah. That's where. Oh, those were the seven. Yeah, seven.
Seven dirty words you couldn't use on television.
That was hilarious. Actually, there was a video. I was thinking, if my the demon on my left shoulder or right, I'm not sure which one shoulder that demon's on. There's a guru, a kind of a, one of those guys in robes with long white hair and a long white beard, and he goes through about a 10-minute spiel on the F word, how it's the different contexts that the F word can be used. And I didn't say it, but it's quite hilarious. But I was going to start the show with that, but my angel, the angel on my shoulder, got a little bit, won that fight.
I'd like to compliment you, because it seems as you get older, the angel on the shoulder gets a little stronger than the devil on your left. I think growing up, it might have been just the opposite a little bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And actually, what's freed me, and I wish I would have learned this a lot earlier in life, is and I think you would agree that we're tied up a lot in what other people think about us, and when you can kind of let go a little bit of that, it makes it just it's a little bit freeing of a, and I think we still hold on to some of that, but yeah. And actually, I just might throw this out there, that the only person you should ever be embarrassed about is yourself. Other people are who they are, and I think that's kind of my take on it. I worry about myself than what other people do, and I've embarrassed myself plenty of times, and I'm sure I will again. But that's my take on it. We got a few more viewers now. They missed the drama. You can always scroll back to the beginning of it and rewind it. I think you can do that while you're live. Actually, you can actually take the scroll bar and move it to the front and start the show, and then you can refresh your screen and you'll be live again. Just a little tip. I think your mom's out there. Hi, Kak. She's a regular viewer, which I always appreciate. And maybe I can get some ideas on how to coax these ladies on if we're going to have a day where we're going to do a little earlier time.
I think they're all waiting for Aunt Donna to get on before they come on.
Yeah, I want Donna to be comfortable with the headphones, because I know she has some hearing issues. Like I said, I think with a little luck, Joyce or Celeste is watching now. That would be really nice, just because I think she doesn't get to see a lot of her family anymore, and I think she would like to see your mom and Donna and Carol and Sis and Terry and my mom. So maybe they will show some charity, and once we have it confirmed that we do have Celeste and Donna on, that maybe some of the older women will come on and talk a little bit more.
It's funny. We've talked about family genetics before, and
yeah.
To have aunts and uncles, 10 of them, or other than Jim, dying the way he died, all the rest, all 9 of them, still alive and it's somewhat healthy, as far as ages go. I mean, you can look around to a lot of families that have those type of siblings, and most of them are already passed on. And, so the genetics are really strong, but it's odd. It seems like our hearing is, there's so many people in the family that have such hearing problems that I wonder if that's genetics or maybe just environment.
Well, I think those organs, in fact, if we look at all these handsome devils on the screen right now, we all got these on. That one early on me. My ears are still pretty good, but I can't see it all anymore. I think it's the heart that's important. That's the important thing. And yeah, we have actually pretty good long living genetics for a lot of us. That's right. Danny Wells.
Good afternoon, guys.
Much better.
How are you?
Wonderful.
David, are you in Huntington Beach?
I am.
I'll probably be coming back into town tomorrow for several days, and I might be doing some shopping. Let me know if you need anything.
I just scored some white gold at Home Depot.
Okay, all right. And also, Smitty, I think your request to keep the language at a PG-13 or just under R is totally acceptable, and there's no reason why it shouldn't go that way. No, we know what we should. There's a time and a place for it, right?
I agree.
Yeah, probably because it's not.
I agree, but
it's
yeah,
not done off.
like I said, there's a balance of trying to be comfortable up here and
Long Beach
and be-
keeps calling me.
being yourself and putting that
Well,
foot
you're
down.
not asking people to necessarily be, all that politically correct. You're just asking them to watch, a few words, and that's not too much to ask. But hey, I want to change the subject real quick before my audio takes a crap and I got to get out of here. Yeah, the stories that I really look forward to. The stories that I really look forward to are the stories from the generation of the elders, their childhood, and some of the things they went through. I've heard most of the stories, and I'm sure there's still a lot of more of, say, our generation. But of the aunts, I would love to hear what they went through as childs, and they, and through high school and their college days. That's what I would really like to hear.
No, I would too, and I think it'd come a lot natural because when they get together, those ladies can talk for hours. So I'm hoping they'll kind of get the idea like what we're doing right now, and it does tend to be a little bit our generation centric because for whatever reason, and I'm trying to figure out ways where we can make it more comfortable. But I definitely think if we got a couple of the older women on at the same time, we would it would be much easier for them. And I think I could just blank myself out and just go and just let it go. And
And listen.
that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping.
So I know some of the best conversations I've ever had with Khaki is when nobody else is around, and I just start poking her a couple of questions about her childhood or things beyond, way prior to Maggie, or even, like I said, her childhood. And she goes on and on about it, and it's just suppressed, and I just let her run with it. And it's good stuff. And that's what I'd really like to hear.
No, I would too. But again, do you have any ideas how we can prompt that to happen any quicker than we are?
Do I what?
Have any ideas on how we can make that, how we can grease the wheels to make that happen?
Well, I know Khaki's trying to con me into doing a favor for her, so
Oh,
tit for tat, maybe.
I wonder I wonder what their price is if I was offering them like $100 a piece to come up here for an hour.
If they would all get on the same time, I'd pitch in. Absolutely.
For $100 an hour.
I think probably
Not even-
everyone
yeah,
would. Okay.
in a
Maybe.
heartbeat. Wouldn't even bat an eye.
That might get Khaki up here. I don't know.
Khaki for sure.
Christy says she'd do almost
Yeah.
anything for $100 an hour.
Okay. Okay.
I'll pitch in as much as Maggie's money as you need.
Okay. Well, Carol, she's told me if I took down that video, she'd come on the show. So I kind of want to, I like to hold, yeah, but I think Carol's doing her own, God bless her. I think she's doing, she's enjoying her life right now. And I don't want to mess with that, but I think honestly, I think she would have a good time too. And we need to start saving some of those stories. And we have the technology now to do it.
Yeah, because other than what they have in their memories, I mean, that's all you really have. And once that's gone, the next generation doesn't know about them. So something like this would actually be able to keep those around for years to come, for future generations.
No, I agree. And again, this just kind of started as a little bit of a lark, and who knows where it was going to go. I hope, we'll see where it goes. And I'm to do my best to coax them to come up on here, and maybe they have some ideas. Maybe Sis has some ideas, but it revolves around who comes on the screen. That's kind of what it revolves around.
Yeah, I know.
I try to look at the comments and
I'll put money in the kitty if that's what it takes.
Okay, that sounds good. I don't know what that is. What was that, David?
What is he doing?
I was trying to get my screen to enlarge, and there was a button down in the back that said flip, but I guess it's the camera flip. It goes from front facing to back facing camera.
Now you got to be careful with that.
David, what's the weather like down there?
Yeah, tell me. A little bit overcast, but beautiful day. I went and picked up a new furnace that I'm putting in for somebody tomorrow.
Are they still out and about downtown quite a bit? A lot of people out there.
We haven't been downtown for quite a few days. It's I was down in on Dana Point yesterday, and down there it looked like a rare summer day. Families out and people biking and people running and restaurants open. Not restaurants, but fast food places open and people going down to the beach. It didn't look many different than a spring day. Kind of odd.
Yeah. I know it's totally different out here in the Coachella Valley. Everybody's pretty kept to themselves. Not very many people in public, but then again, I mean, we're pushing 95, 98 degrees today.
I wonder if that outside temperature is going to affect the ability of the virus to continue.
If what's going to continue?
I'm wondering when the weather heats up to that amount, to that extreme, when you get above the 90s, if the virus is going to be able to sustain itself.
I don't know. I guess
Hard to say.
I guess we'll know through time. I still think the testing needs to there's just probably not enough information out there yet.
Well, one bit of information that I watched on the news today down there, a local channel, was that that they had done a group testing thing to try to see what it's like in the population, and they said the people that have it is actually 40 times greater than the confirmed cases that we have now. So and it's odd because it's the first time I've heard on a national news that somebody said, and if these numbers are correct, it will change the ratio of death rate. And I was waiting for somebody to eventually come up with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I guess it's all going to be based on numbers.
I know one thing. If you're wealthy, they're getting tested all the time. I think Joe Rogan, one of the guys I look up to, I guess he's getting tested like twice a week.
Again, on the news, I heard that in Riverside County now that anybody can get a test. You don't have to have symptoms or anything. The test is available to anyone.
Well, that's interesting. Are those drive-up tests?
All right, my
Yes.
my phone's cutting out. I gotta go.
Okay. Hey, thanks for coming in, Danny Wells. Always appreciate
I gotta go.
presence. Always appreciate your presence.
I'll be watching. Hey, I got one more topic you might want to think about.
What's that?
Maybe the topic of something positive that we have out of this COVID-19. Not the negative, but something you've learned from it positive and will take with you once all dies down.
Freeways are clear.
I like that. Another one is I like this little segment of the show too. It's a little wonky, but you know where that is. Does anybody
Is that the same as yesterday?
What's that? It's different than yesterday. Oh, we got a few more
That
people.
the same as yesterday?
No, different.
Lake Silverwood.
No. Well, I got to
expand it to one picture so I can see it. I got to go.
Arrowhead.
Maybe Dennis can figure out that one. Okay, I got a few people out in the gallery, so I'm going to let Kurt, Janice, and Khaki come on. So here we go.
Let's put Kurt on first, okay?
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
I heard $100. I'm up.
Well, good.
Well,
Good.
Hi, everyone.
All you have to do is throw a little money at them.
New
Hi,
hairdo.
Khaki. Yeah, you look like you got a haircut, Mom.
No, it's all pulled back. It's all white. I haven't gone to the beauty shop in a long time. So I pulled mine back and it looks like Khaki made bangs.
Hi, Mom.
So what stories do you want to hear? Khaki and I can tell you anything you want to know.
I would love. Great. I'm loving this. Okay, go. Where do you want to? Khaki, ask my mom a question, or ask Khaki a question.
Is Khaki hard of hearing too?
Okay. Let me start this off. What is the order of birth rate for your siblings?
The order of birth rate?
Yeah.
I mean, the order when they were born? You know, James, Donna, Celeste, Kathy, me, Danny, Carol, Joe, Sis, and Terry.
So you're number 4 or number 5?
5.
Okay. So you're just below Khaki.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you knew that.
No.
I can't hear. So I came on because you want to hear some stories.
Yes.
I can tell you stories almost of every one of my kids. Who do you want to hear a story about? How about if I give you a story about poop?
Let's
When
hear
Mom
it.
and I had kids, you all know we interchanged our kids. I would trade one of mine to Mom for one of hers. When they lived out in Muscoy, where the 210 freeway took their house, they lived a half a block from the Warsh. And the Warsh was very adventuresome to kids, but it was also kind of dangerous. And Joey was out there with poop, and Kenny must have been about 9 years old. Joey was about 12. So they wanted to go up the Warsh, and Mom told him, go ahead up to the Warsh. Don't go too far because it went the whole length from Lido Creek all the way down to the Santa Ana River. Don't go too far and be back in an hour. Well, Mom said the hour, nobody came back. An hour and a half, nobody came back. Finally, she said she went looking, and Joey was walking down baseline. Mom, Grandma, Mom, he said, I lost Kenny. I can't find him anywhere. She said, oh, you're kidding. No, I can't find him anywhere. So then Mom came home and called me. And I can't remember if we called the sheriff, but everyone got so excited because poop was lost in the Warsh. And actually, if I remember what happened, Joey left him and Kenny outsmarted him. Kenny came on down and was sitting out in Grandma's backyard the whole time, and they thought he was lost in the Warsh. But it sure scared the hell out of Mom and me. And then I can tell you a story about Jennifer. When I had probably taken Joey over to my house or Sis over to my house, Jennifer was out in Muscoy, and she was probably about 3 or 4, and Sis was probably 5 or 6. And they were playing, and Mom was cooking dinner, and they would play, and then Sis would bring Jennifer by the hand and show her to Mom, and Mom was standing at the kitchen stove. Look, Mom, look, we're playing beauty school. Look what I did to Jennifer. Mom would take her hand, shake it, and say, go on back and play. You guys are doing fine. You're just doing fine. After that happened 3 or 4 times, Mom said she thought he looked down, and here Sis had cut about half of Jennifer's hair off. Her beautiful blonde curls were gone. And oh, Mom just apologized and apologized. But that's the story I can tell you about Jennifer. Poor Dennis, I can tell you a story about Dennis. He fell and broke his arm, the poor kid, and he was in a cast. And I think that's one of the only few times that Betty Dietz and Aunt Lou came over to our house to see Dennis and his broken arm. And of course, we lived in Palmetto. We had a big house. We had a 4-bedroom house. But they felt so sorry for Dennis because it was so loud. There were so many kids. How could Dennis ever get better with all those kids around the house? Well, he did get better, and he got fine. Then there's the story about Danny, which everyone knows, is he did just what he does today. He went out in the workshop, and he'd stay out there for hours and hours and hours. Kenny built this beautiful 20 by 20 workshop with a lot of tools. Danny would do something in the neighborhood to earn $1, $1.50. He built a little trailer on the back of his bike. He'd leave. He'd go over to Net's hardware store. He'd buy a couple of pieces of wood, tie it on the back of his bike. A couple of days later, he'd come out and say, Mom, come look, see what I made. And there'd be a bookcase. There'd be a cabinet shop just out of a $2 or $3 worth of wood. It was just absolutely amazing. Of course, Danny is amazing, and he learned a lot from that. Damien, you know, Mom and I used to get away whenever we could. And as the kids got older, I got away every chance I could. And Kenny worked shift work, so he was always home. Even though he wasn't a hell of a lot of help with the kids, he was still home. Well, there's one time I got a chance. I think your dad and I both got a chance to go to Las Vegas. I think it was Annie and Uncle Ed and Mom. And Jennifer and Susie were going to watch the kids. Well, Joey said he'd stay because Jennifer had her girlfriend, Chris Blazer, Kathy Blazer over, and Joey had the hots for Kathy Blazer. So I think we were only gone just one day. And I worried the whole time I was up there, how would they watch those kids? What was going to happen? And don't you know, I walked in the back door. The sink was right there. I looked, and there was a paper from Kaiser Hospital. I thought, oh, okay, what the hell happened? Well, I don't know really what happened. I don't remember the story, but somehow Damien got his arm broke. I don't know if Joey tossed him up in the air, if he beat him, what he did. But anyway, he ended up with a broken arm. And then Maggie, I could tell you stories from Maggie that wouldn't end. But Maggie has always been just very positive, can't change her attitude about anything. And once in a while, the boys would go up the Little Creek fishing. There was Danny and Dennis and Patrick and Damien. I don't know. They'd go 3 or 4, and they'd bring the fish home, little trout fish, and they'd clean them in the kitchen sink. And they would get a assembly line going. Pat would cut the heads off, and one of them would cut the guts out, and one would wash them. And Maggie was about 3 years old and kept saying, I want to help. I want to help. They no, go away. It's all blood. You don't want to see. Well, she watched them cut them up, and she watched them cut the heads off, and she watched them throw them in the trash. The next day I go out the sliding door. We had redwood table and benches out there. We had some goldfish in a little pot. Don't you know, Maggie had gotten those goldfish, put them on that patio table, and she cut the heads and tails off those little goldfish just to show the boys, you can't tell me that I can't do it, because I can do it. And that's the story. I mean, I know there's a hell of a lot more, but let Janice tell us some of her memories. And yes, I could go on forever and ever and ever about the things that Mom and I, how we would take 10, 12 kids and go to Knott's Berry Farm with $1.50 in our pockets. That's when it was free to go to Knott's Berry Farm. We'd pack a lunch, we'd take some cans of Coke or something, and we'd spend the day at Knott's Berry Farm. And we did the same old thing going to Pacific Ocean Park. Mom and I we always wanted to do more for the kids than what we could afford to do, or what we were capable of doing. But we put 7 or 8 of the kids in the car, went to Knott's Berry, and went to Pacific Ocean Park. And we stayed, and it was crowded. And just when it started thinning out, Mom said, well, why are we going home? Look, it's real thin now, 4:30, 5 o'clock, let's stay. I said, okay, we don't have to get home for any reason. So we stayed, and we got lost coming home. We probably didn't get home to midnight. And my God, Dad and Kenny Dietz were just fit to be tied, because they said they didn't know what happened to us, because nobody stays at POP until 11:30 at night. But we did, and I don't remember how many of the kids remember that or not. But we made our own fun the best way we could, how we could. So let Janice tell you some of the stories that she remembers. Thanks a lot, Pat, for listening, and I will get on. I've got more stories than you can ever, and I have such a good memory, I don't forget any of them.
Khaki, can you hear me?
Yeah?
Okay, tell me, how much older are you than my mom? Year, 2 years?
Tell you a story about your mom?
Yeah, when you remember her as a little girl.
No.
How much older am I than your mom?
Yeah.
A little over a year.
I was born in April, and your mom was born a year later in January.
What do you?
So 18 months or something.
What do you remember about my mom as a little girl?
We always felt sorry for your mom when she was a child, because us girls, Donna, Celeste, and I were so close together. And then she had Danny, but there was like a 4 years age difference between Danny and Janice and me.
No.
And Don and I would go out traipsing around doing what we needed to do. And Donna would go with us. We all went out and made our own fun. But poor Janice, there wasn't anyone her age to hang around with. Us girls were older than her, and Danny was younger than her. So Janice did a lot of her life saying, just kind of not knowing what to do with herself, because Donna and I were out on bicycles and running around, and Celeste was in her house cleaning the house and covering pillows, and she was the good housekeeper, and she kept her house clean, her drawers clean. And so poor Janice, she didn't fit in anywhere. And I'm not no offense to Janice, but I remember that. She always felt like she was the outsider until she got older. Then she outshined us all. She was prettier than us. She was taller than us. She made a more of a social life for herself than any of us ever did. But and there was good memories too, you know, but it's just that Don and Celeste and I were so close together, and we had so much in common that Janice, she's the outside looking in, I do believe. I could be wrong.
What do you remember about Khaki, Mom?
Well, I was typically the middle child, but I also, let's see, Khaki and Donna were very, very close. And Jim had a life of his own. And Danny, they thought he had heart trouble when he was born, so everyone handled him with kid gloves. He was very spoiled, and Celeste kind of became his mother, and she took care of him. And then Carol came along, and she was an absolute raving beauty, and all the attention went to her. So I was kind of stuck there. But when I got older, I became very attached to Celeste. She kind of groomed me and made me gave me all my confidence, and she did everything for me. So she was always good to me. But I always said I saw both ends of the family, because by the time the second half, by the time Joe, Sis, and Terry were born, the top half was all gone and married. So I was kind of right there in the center. I was there when Mom had all the babies and helped with them. And I was also there to babysit whenever Cac had a baby, I'd go stay with her and help with it. I went and helped Donna with Cindy and Kurt when they were born, and Chris. And I was always kind of the old maid that stayed home and tried to do what I could do. That was about it. Yeah. So
there was a lot to be done.
Yeah, it was just, I just remember tons and tons of wall-to-wall babies everywhere. Everybody was pregnant all the time. It was just unbelievable.
We
had as many babies as the girls have got dogs now.
Yeah, there was just, I think there was a baby born every 2 months for like 4 years in a row. So,
which babies did you really take to that you really like mothered, or were there any of them that you really took a shining to?
I loved all of them. I've got very attached to little Patrick, who died in his what did he have, found him crib death. But I was very attached to him. But he was born into a very abusive situation, and that was super sad. That haunted me for years. When Terry was born, she was my baby. I hated it that Mom was having another baby, but after she arrived, I bought her car seat. I bought her clothes. I was working at the phone company. I bought her beautiful little dresses. And then Susie, Khaki and Mom and all of them each had babies at the same time. So I remember having Susie and Terry together all the time. It was like you and Damien, and I had Damien and Maggie with you. It was, you were all together. The scariest time that I had with you and Damien, talking about the kids, is when we lived in Cherry Valley and Damien stayed all night up there. And I think you were probably both 3 and 4, because by the time you were up in Cherry Valley through the ages of 3 and 4. And I forget the name of the freeway coming down, but there was a donut shop, and there were no car seats or anything then. And I went in to get donuts to take to Khaki's house in time for breakfast. It was like 7 in the morning or something. And I thought, I'll take a box of donuts to Khaki. And I said, you and Damien sit in the car. I'll be back in 5 minutes. And I came back, and there was nobody in the car. And we were on the edge of the freeway, and there was an airfield across the street, and airplanes were landing. And you two had walked across the freeway and into the airfield, and you were walking out there with the planes landing, and you'd walked across the freeway. I thought I would die, but you were both okay. And then if Amelia is listening, one of the biggest, scariest things that ever happened to me was right after I met Amelia. She was like 3 months old or 4 months old. I forget. And anyway, I asked if I could ever babysit her, and they said, of course. So the first time I babysat her, probably I went to their home in San Diego, and they said, if you want to, you can take her out for a walk in her stroller. And if you know San Diego, it was just one steep hill after another. And they lived at the top of a very steep hill, right over Highway 5, right across from the airport. But it was just one steep hill after another. And they'd gone to the show or something, and I had her all to myself. I was just handling her with kid gloves. I didn't want anything to go wrong. And I put her in the stroller, and I'm walking her down the hill, and something happened. I lost control, and there goes Amelia and the stroller straight down that hill. I thought I would die. Well, funny enough, she bumped into the curb, and nothing happened. No car. I mean, she could have been run over because it was a street at the end of the hill. And then I thought, well, do I say anything to them when they come home? They're going to think I'm terrible. They'll never ask me to be around her again. And in the end, I said, I've got to tell them, because I'm afraid tomorrow she may wake up with black and blue because of the hard bump. And I'm sure I told Robert, maybe I'm wrong, but that was awful. Anyway.
Well, that's a good story.
Yeah.
I've got so many stories to tell, and then I'm going to get off. But what I want to say is, the kids today, or the young people today, they have no idea what it's like to live with so many people when all the kids are begging for attention, wanting to do this, wanting to do that, because there's not that many kids in the family anymore. But what I said, if anyone gets the chance to do anything good, to make a memory for a kid, I don't care whose kid it is, if it's a kid on the sidewalk, you need to do it. Because when we were young, and Janice will agree with me, we had very little fun things. We lived out in the country. We didn't own a car. We didn't have shoes in the summertime. But Mom had a friend when she was expecting Carol. She had a friend that befriended her, and she stayed with Mom the night Carol was born. And they had a car. It was Ruby and Alphonse, and they had a car. And one day, I must have been in first or second grade, we went up to this little country school. One day, I don't know if Damien just doing it. If the phone's ringing, can they still hear me? Lynn's tried to call you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, somebody tried to call them. Anyway, I was in school, and it was a country school, and I was sitting in school, and our teacher, Mrs. Swain, said, "Come here, Kathy, Mary Catherine, someone's here for you." And I got up, and I walked out, and there stood Mom and Ruby. And I said, "What?" He said, "Well, we come for a surprise. We're going to take you somewhere." They took me out, and they put in the back, I'm sure it was a Chevy. That's all that Alphonse ever drove, was old Chevys. Sat in the back seat, and that's when they had the mohair seat covers and the big tassels behind the seat. And I sat there like a queen in that back seat, all by myself. We went to a little town, Marseilles. It was probably about 10 miles from Ottawa. And we went to some little, probably a drugstore, and we had a sandwich and a Coke, came home. I don't think I got any toys. I don't think I can go out for lunch. But I will never forget that, because it was one of the few nice things that was done just for me. So any chance that you can make a memory for somebody, do it, because you know after working at school. She has kids come back to her today that's, "Oh, Mrs. Harriger, you changed my life. You gave me the best. You were the best person I ever had to talk. You were the only person in my life." So you never know when you're making somebody, when you're making a memory for somebody. So do it every chance you get. And I'm going to give the phone to Damien, because the neighbor girl is racking up. So I'm taking off, Pat. Thank you, and I'll get mine in the kitchen.
Thank you, Kat. That was wonderful.
About 10 times.
That was wonderful. That was really, thank you, Damien.
He stole that memory from me, because I've remarked about it.
Oh,
It
okay.
was me that they picked. We get all mixed up in our memories. It was me that Mom and Ruby
Oh.
picked up at school, and it was.
Welcome. Talk to you later.
Once in a while, we get a banana in our lunch pail or those chocolate marshmallow cookies. And I remember I was eating the chocolate marshmallow cookie. I was probably 5. She put me in first grade at 5 because I was so miserable at home. They let me go to school at 5 at the country school. So Khaki and Celeste and I and Donna were all in the same room, just in a different aisle. We probably learned more in that schoolhouse than we did in any school ever because we're all doing the same thing at the same time. But Ruby and Mom picked me up, and I was sitting in the back of the car, and it was one of those rare times that I had Mom all to myself, and the sun was shining. I can taste the cookie and feel the sun. And they took us over to they took me to Marseille, and I was there all alone. Now maybe they did that with each one of us, trying to make us feel good. But that was my memory.
No, that's good. No, that's probably what they did. Is they, treated each one special because you both have that same vivid memory. That's neat.
Well, Ruby and Alphonse were unable to have children, and they just fell in love with our family. And of course, when Carol was born, Ruby just almost took her. And then eventually she adopted a little girl, and then she dropped Carol like a hot potato. And I mean, I remember Carol feeling very funny about it because Ruby just, they idolized her. They had a room in their house for her. He built her a crib. He was a carpenter. They were wonderful, wonderful people. Yeah, he drove a new Chevrolet. He drove a new one. It was, I probably was the last one before he went into World War II, and he was in Iwo Jima. But, and Ruby moved into our house and stayed with us. By then, Dad had gone to work in the shipyard, and we bought a big, old 2-story, big house downtown Ottawa. And then we all went to Catholic school, and Ruby moved in with us, and Alphonse was in World War II, and those were beautiful memories. But when Khaki was born, she was really born in the Depression. I remember crying when I saw the house she was born in. It would be called a shack. And there was Jim and Donna and Celeste and Khaki. But the time Danny and I were born, they had moved on. It was the end of the Depression, and that house is still standing. It's kind of a neat little white frame house on the edge of town. It's not way out. And the last time I visited back there for a family reunion, we actually drove out and saw it. And so things were much better. But we had shoes in the summer. That's not true. Maybe Khaki didn't, but the time I came along, we had summer shoes. We had 2 pair of shoes a year. Got a new pair of sandals at Easter, and you wore those. And then when school started, you got a new pair of shoes to go Oxfords to go to wear until Easter. And that was, but everybody was that way. Everybody that I remember.
Well, that's good. Would you help us clear up a little bit of Terry's memory?
Why? What's her memory?
Well, we were talking yesterday about Cherry Valley, and she didn't remember that we used to live in that one house on Tokay Street.
Oh yeah. Well, when I came home with you to Muscoy, which was probably the worst. Now it's one of the worst places in Southern California. But at the time, Dad had bought that big house to get us off Western Avenue, and it served its purpose. But then it really got bad. But anyway, he built the house. He had the home built in Cherry Valley. It was huge. It was beautiful. It was a whole new world. And when we moved up there, I think you had your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th birthdays there. So Terry was like your sister because I was home with you until I remarried when you were 5. So Terry and Joe and Sis were your brothers and sisters. But in Cherry Valley, Terry didn't like it because she had grown attached to Susie in Fontana, and she just moved in with Cac and wouldn't go home. And she told Mom and Dad, "I'm not going home. I don't like it up." She wanted to be with Susie. But actually, Mom and Dad moved back and forth. I think Dad thought if he kept building, he'd never die. They built 3 homes in Cherry Valley. They moved back and forth 3 times, and they moved back and forth to Chico twice, I think. No, when they came to Chico, they stayed, I guess.
So that house on Tokay Street, Joe remembers it being 4 bedrooms.
It was huge. It was huge. It was probably, huge to us. It was probably well over 2,000 square feet. It had 4 big bedrooms, all the same size, 2 baths, a great big living room with a fireplace, and a huge kitchen. Yeah. And that's when Scotty would come up. He was a year year younger than you because I was working at Kaiser Hospital and I was there when Scotty was born. And so you and Scotty would play together. And
So
Dad would,
what
Yeah.
was the sleeping arrangements in that house? I know me and you shared a bedroom. Did anyone else share it with us?
no, I had no, you always, let's see, how was that? Yeah, you were a little tiny boy then. I think I had probably you and I were in the same bedroom. We weren't in the same bed. And then Carol would have been, no, Carol was married. Joe and Sis and Terry had a room. Probably Joe had a room and Mom and Dad had a room. Yeah, it was a big house, a great big barn in the back. It was on an acre, I think. It was really nice. And just across the street, who's the famous people? They still have the famous fruit stand. They're sold all over the world.
Well, yeah, I know.
They
I
had the
can't.
fruit stand on the way to Palm Springs. Hadley's. They
Hadley's.
were our neighbor. We never knew them that well, but they lived catty corner from us. A big old home with a big fence around it. And on Halloween, I took you out trick or treating, and there was only like a few farmhouses here and there. And I remember knocking. Everybody was thrilled to death to see a little kid trick or treating. I think you were 3. They all gave you candy, and yeah. Joe knows Cherry Valley. He has memories.
No, yeah, I definitely have memories from the house on Tokay. In the house that they lived in while they were building that house, I have a couple of memories.
Oh, that was out in the country. It was that was kind of a smaller home, and it was right across from an empty field. Probably if you went up there now, it would all be completely different.
I wonder if that house on Tokay is still there. Do you know?
Oh, I think it is. Let's see. Well, the last time I was there was when Mike and Karen, who got married? Veronica. When Mikey married Veronica, they had the old-fashioned stagecoach wedding up in Oak Glen because Mike and Karen lived in Yucaipa. And Dan and I drove up, and we drove by the house, and they had the tall cypriot pines. It was beautiful. The house was still there. Cherry Valley was completely built in, completely. But I remember that's when I was working at Kaiser, and I was tired of driving the freeway to Fontana. So a doctor at Kaiser Hospital asked if I'd be interested in working in Yucaipa, and he knew a doctor with him in their practice that needed somebody, and that's how I worked up there, and I got into radiology, and that was the most beautiful drive in the world, and I was the only one on the road. It was called Jackrabbit Pass, and you left Cherry Valley and drove over the mountain and down right into Yucaipa, and it was just gorgeous. I thought, how many people drive to work like this every day? And Mom took care of you, and I worked. It was happy times.
Wasn't that Dr. Rutten?
Yeah, I think he's been dead a long time now.
And that's where you met Inez, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, my best girlfriend. I often wonder what happened to her. Yeah, she was the X-ray tech, and I was the secretary.
Yep.
And the doctors would come in from they'd fly in to do radiology because we were kind of out in the country, and they'd come in from Loma Linda. And one doctor had a plane, and he flew in from Bakersfield. And I remember we were all bored. We just sat and did nothing because very, very few customers. And I remember he taught Inez and I how to knit because he said he'd had a heart attack, and he started knitting to calm himself down. And he taught us how to knit, and we'd sit there and knit. Remember the Afghans I knitted? There was a green Afghan I knitted, and I knitted. Carol was having Kitty, and I knitted her whole layette.
No, I don't know how I got this story, but I definitely remember you because I've always wanted a little brother. And I'd say, go to Dr. Rutten and get a shot. I remember for whatever reason, that's how I thought I would get a brother. But I remember telling you, go to Dr. Rutten and get a shot.
You wanted a little brother? I don't remember that.
I do. Yeah.
So you thought if I got a shot, I'd have a little brother.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't know what the double entendre on that might have meant, but yeah. Later I kind of figured that out. But you probably told me. Well, I don't know. I have no idea how I tried to piece that together.
Yeah, you ended up with a surprise brother.
I did. And he might even be watching right now. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the way when Carol was born, we lived on the edge of Ottawa, And remember Dr. Sawyer was the family doctor. And I don't remember my mother being pregnant. I was 5, and it was a wet, cold, rainy day in May. She was born May 15th. And I remember there was this old lady, Lady Hankins, and she had a big, beautiful 2-story home up the street. And she'd always let us kids pick berries for a penny a box in the summer. And she became our friend. And she decided to keep us girls overnight because it was only a 2-bedroom home and Mom was having the baby, which I didn't know what was going on. But I remember the doctor coming in and he had a big black bag. And then Dad shuffled us all up the hill. I remember walking through the rain. We went up and stayed all night at Mrs. Hankins' house. And I came home the next morning and there was this baby in the bed, brand new baby. So to me, the doctor brought the baby in the black bag. That's what I thought for a long, long time. And also that night up at her house, we were upstairs and she brought this pot up for us to pee in, I guess, because everybody had houses, but she called it a different name. I forget the name. It was something fancy and none of us knew what she was talking about. I don't know, we probably wet the bed or something, but
Well,
anyway, that's where I thought babies came from for a long, long time.
From a black bag, huh?
Doctor brought him in a black bag.
Well, I have Kurt. Kurt might be up here. He might have popped into memory. Let's see what Kurt has to say. What do you got to say?
No, I was kind of popping in and out, and I heard your mom say Jackrabbit Pass, right? And that whenever I saw that road when I was a kid, it fascinated me for some reason.
Oh, you know what?
Probably because I wanted to hunt them or something. But
I could be wrong on that. Because there's a Jackrabbit Pass that came up from like Riverside up that back road. But you could be right. I think we're talking about 2 different roads. But there's one road that leaves Beaumont and goes right through the woods and ends up in Yucaipa. Is that Jackrabbit? Or I think Jackrabbit is another one. Maybe it has another name.
Well, I was going to ask you, I have a vague memory of a house. I was probably 12 or 13 or 14 years old. So that would have been, 1968, 67. And I helped my dad install some countertops. And I think it was a desert town. I helped my dad install some countertops at Grandma and Grandpa's house. I don't remember where that house was. But when you said Jackrabbit Pass, oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. I remember. Actually, I remember that. I remember you doing that. It was at their.
What house would that be? But they had a beautiful smaller home built on Orchid.
That one.
Orchid or Orchard, and then she loved the color Orchid, and she had it all done in that color shag carpet. So I get the two. I remember the house was all Orchid shag. We were living in Fontana then. I had married, and we were living down there. But I think it was Orchard Street in Cherry Valley.
Yeah, I remember you doing that, Kurt. I remember that.
Was Cherry Valley?
Cherry Valley. Yeah.
I remember Cherry Valley going up, through Beaumont up towards the mountains and the house on the right before you started going up the mountains. I remember that as their Cherry Valley house.
That was the first Cherry Valley house, and we were just at the beginning of the road where you took up to Oak Glen.
Yeah, it was on Orchard. Yeah, I remember Grandpa building that house. Yeah, I remember that one. That's what
I just remember it as a desert town. That's what I remember it as. But I could have my memories a little confused because my grandma and grandpa on the other side.
I mean, you dropped down
into the desert.
You dropped down into Palm Springs, but in Beaumont and Banning were just kind of at the top of the hill, and then you dropped down into Palm Springs. But Cherry Valley was more getting up in the hills, and it was a little bit prettier. It just sat above Beaumont.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Do you remember the house on Tokay Street in Cherry Valley that had the big boulder in the front yard? In the barn? Yeah, in the barn in the back.
Yeah, I think they had railroad ties around a circle driveway. Yeah, and I used to go out there and look for lizards. And I remember one time we went up there and me and my brother were hunting lizards, and Grandpa had a big stack of wood, and these lizards would get into the stack of woods, and we couldn't reach them, right? So the next time we came up, we brought our BB guns, and we got them with our BB guns. That was kind of fun. But no, I remember that house. I remember one time being there with Dennis and Uncle Joe and my brother, and Joe and my brother were like pushing me and Dennis. You know how you'd lay back on your back and you'd sit on their feet, and they'd push you. They'd push you with their feet. Well, Joe pushed Dennis, and Dennis ended up breaking his arm.
I thought that was Damien. I thought that was Damien.
It was Dennis. I'm like 99%
I hate to
sure it was
interrupt
Dennis.
here, but I just realized it's 20 after 5, so I
You
have
got
to
dinner to
stop.
cook.
I have to leave.
Hey, thank you for coming on. This is what I was looking for, and I think
okay.
so. We'll have to do this again.
If
Call your
Amelia's on there, I love you, Amelia. Love you, Yvonne. Love everybody. I'll see y'all later. I'm gonna watch the comments.
call Carol and tell her to get on here too.
I talked to her yesterday, and I asked her, and she says, she's so busy. She's so busy now. She's taking care of 2 houses. So
Okay, well, we might do this at 2:00 one of these days soon in the
that,
afternoon.
2 to 4 would be wonderful for me.
Okay, well, I can do that.
It'd be better for people back east too. Better for people in Scotland too.
See that, Kurt? Can you read that?
Bye bye.
No, no.
It was Damien, because I remember that
It was
story.
Damien? Are you sure? God, man, Damien would have been like 4 or 5 years old.
I think maybe Joe broke a couple of the Dietz boys' arms. It looks like maybe.
I see Dennis is on. I can't really read. I'd have to get real close to read it, but Dennis is saying it wasn't him.
Well, Joe. Well, we got a little rumble here because Dennis said that was me, and Joe was saying I never broke your arm, Dennis.
Yeah, he did. In fact, I remember going out to tell Grandpa about it. You know, Byron. You know what Byron said?
What?
Leave me alone. I'm working. I don't have time for that. Leave me alone. I'm working.
What do you remember about Byron?
Oh, never had a whole lot of interaction with him, but a few things. I remember helping him. This was in Chico, chop firewood, and he showed me how to use instead of an axe, he used a wedge and a sledgehammer, right? And did that for a while. I was probably in my early 20s, yeah. And I remember doing rosaries at Grandma and Grandpa's, and Grandpa leading the rosaries. I don't think I ever went anywhere with them. My other grandpa on my other side, took me fishing and stuff like that. But I don't think I ever went anywhere. But Grandma more than made up for the love coming out of that household, if you ask me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm kind of interested on I think I know some of Uncle Joe. Here we go. We got someone else who wants to put their 2 cents in. Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of different takes on Grandpa. I think I came in when he was a lot more mellower, and I have I spent a lot of time in his truck with him, and he used to take me. But it was mostly all really positive memories I have of that old man.
I remember we were going to Cherry Valley one time, and we were going up that main road to Cherry Valley towards our house, right? And Grandpa just happened to pull out in front of us as we're going up there. And my dad made the comment, he goes, he never goes over 40 miles an hour. I remember him saying, look at his mirrors. They're all out of adjustment. So that was pretty funny. That's just a little.
That is an accurate statement. He didn't go much above 40. There's
Dennis. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how you doing, Kurt? How you doing, Patrick?
We're doing good.
So yes, it was Joe who broke my arm. Joe's saying it wasn't, but Joe broke my arm up in Tokay in the living room. My arm went under the couch.
Yay!
He really break,
I remember.
Fractured it, but then he did Damien's too later on, a couple of years later. Joe, you don't remember, Joe, but I remember.
Yeah.
Joe has some explaining to do on this one.
Well, no, we were just playing. We were having fun. He was kicking us across the room, and it was for me and Kurt, right?
Chris was there too. Chris was, I remember Chris being there too, and I think you were the first one to go. And after that happened, it was like, okay, we can't do this anymore.
Right.
Right. That's the way I remember it.
But I think
I
he
remember that
broke
pretty
Damien the same way, doing the same thing, pushing him off with his feet.
I think
Yeah.
that might have happened in Fontana, but I'm not quite sure. But I remember Joe fucking up Damien or screwing up Damien. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm gonna get knocked off, aren't I? It's my Fontana upbringing. I can't help it.
You were obviously here for the first part of the show.
I sorry. Okay, I'm gonna leave now.
No, you're still no.
No, you're good. You're good, dude.
You're good.
Fuck it, you know. I mean, oh shit! God dang it!
Damn it! All right.
No, we're just going to try to work on that a little bit.
So, Mr. Shaw.
Yes, sir.
So, did you drive by Walker Lake when you were coming back down from?
Yeah, it was the biggest I've ever seen it. It was really cool, but you know that's a dead lake, right?
Oh, I thought there was a lot of fish in Walker.
No, what happened is they drained a lot of it off for agriculture, and I don't know when it happened, maybe 20 years ago or something like that, and it turned the water real either salty or alkaline, or maybe that's the same thing. I don't even know, but it killed all the fish. But they still recreation on that lake, and yeah, it's right there. Oh, what's the name of that little town? Like a military town out there. Name escapes me. I never can remember the name of that little town. Not Henderson, Nevada, but starts with an H. Help me out here, guys. Out in the middle of nowhere.
There's a lot.
So
of
yeah,
in the middle of nowhere out there.
We
That's
go
a beautiful
up.
drive coming down 395, though, isn't it?
I really like it when you're heading up there and you get to Lone Pine. You know you're there. You know, and then it's a short drive to Bishop, and then from Bishop we take this Highway 6 and we cut northeast, and there's a couple little turns you have to make, but we end up going through Fallon, and then getting on the 80 and being about 100 miles away from Winnemucca, being 100 miles west of Winnemucca. So Linda and I did it in 2 days because she has back issues. It's a long drive in one day. It's 12 hours. It's 2 6-hour drives.
Right.
Here to Bishop, and then to Bishop to Winnemucca or Arvada.
Yeah, but it's still a pretty drive on that eastern.
It's
Sierra side.
awesome driving through that desert. There's nobody out there, man.
Yes, it's gorgeous. It's nice.
Does Nellis ring a bell?
No,
Nellis?
it's not Nellis.
Okay. Right.
No, it's Hawthorne, Nevada.
There you go.
Yeah. It's weird. There's like you driving into town and out in the flats. There's bunkers, and then when you go through the town, you start driving out. There's more flats, and there's like just probably 300 buildings all shaped the same way in a row. Probably maybe 30 in a row, or 10 in a row or something like that. But they're all painted the same color as the desert. It's weird. It's weird.
That might have been the old Japanese internment camps out there.
I don't know. I know there was some Japanese internment camp in, I think, the Mammoth area up that way. Linda had a friend that her mom and dad were in the one up there.
Right.
But
Man,
there's a road.
45. There's nothing out there.
So just to let you know, Winnemucca's, I checked it for you because Winnemucca is 160 miles east of Reno, just to give you some perspective of where it is. And then Jeff's 40 miles north of that on 95.
And Winnemucca is north of Elko, right?
I've seen signs for Elko. I think Elko is maybe northeast. I'm not really sure. But the one town you told me, was it called Peaceful
Paradise
Valley
City.
or Pleasant?
Paradise City, I think.
I saw that sign, and that would have been east of Winnemucca.
Before I go on, I don't know if Damien misspells his name or his mom misspells his name, but I think that's kind of hilarious. I think it's IEN, CAC. I thought you would be the one to clear up that. But you two grew up at the hip, didn't you? Kurt and Dennis?
Yeah, we were pretty tight.
Weren't you pretty close?
Yeah, we've had some adventures together.
No, I remember once when you built like a little trailer in the back of a truck to go up to Yosemite. And I remember that in your driveway in Domer, how you were putting that all together, and you know, is it made out of plywood, I think, and you built yourself a
That
little.
was a van, not a truck.
Okay.
Yeah, hold on. You got your memories confused. Let's talk about the Yosemite trip. Me and Dan and Dennis went to Yosemite, and we went on Memorial Weekend, and it was in Danny's van. He had bought a brand new Ford Super Van.
Yep.
And Memorial Weekend was it was so crowded in Yosemite, and we went up there to climb up Half Dome, and we did that, and that was a great, one of the great adventures of my. I love the backpack. I just didn't do it that much. I did it as a Boy Scout, but I always, even when I lived in Chico, I wanted to go backpacking all the time. It just never happened. But we did. Me and Dennis and Danny did Half Dome. It was awesome.
What were you, 16, 17? How old were you then?
No, we're older than that.
You were older?
Probably 18.
Was I married and divorced? Maybe.
I don't remember. I remember we spent our first night up in Tuolumne Meadows because it was so crowded in the valley, and I remember waking up and there was icicles on the top of the van.
Okay, so that wasn't Tuolumne Meadows.
So Tuolumne Valley. And then we went into the valley and ended up hiking up Half Dome.
Really? I don't remember going to Tuolumne Meadows.
I think we spent our first night in Tuolumne Meadows in the van.
I don't remember that, but yeah,
I remember.
I trust you. I trust you.
I remember the old Ranger when we were getting ready to go up Half Dome, and we wanted to leave our big packs and just go up light. And
the last day, right?
Saying, just put them by that old Jeffrey Pine, boys. And we were like looking at each other like, "Where's Jeffrey Pine?" You know. I still remember that. Just put them by the old Jeffrey Pine, boys.
I don't remember that.
Thanks for seeing it, Joe. Do you guys ever remember getting lost tubing in Riverside? Inner tubing down probably the Santa Ana, I'm guessing?
That wasn't me. I've heard the story, and I had nothing to do with it.
That was me and Joe Roan.
Oh, you and Joe Roan?
Yeah, they called the sheriffs out for us.
Cac tells the best story about that. Cac's got a great take on that story.
Well, my mom took us up like 11 miles up to Santa Ana and dropped us off the tube down. And as we started down, the Santa Ana was so low we couldn't even tube. We ended up walking the whole way. So what was supposed to take us 2 hours ended up taking us 8. I remember helicopters going over, and when we got to the road finally, I remember all the cop cars there. You know, me and Joe Roan were like, "What's up? What?" You know.
Yeah,
I remember that slightly.
I almost kind of remember that too, but I don't really.
You should have Dennis tell you the story that when we were on, was it Kauai, Dennis, and we got the car stuck?
Oh, that was horrible.
That was way more horrible for me than it was you, brother.
Well, I know you
get
had
attacked by a dog.
That's how we got the we only got the rental cars because of your mom's credit card that she loaned you. And we weren't supposed to take the rental cars on a dirt road. And of course, we took it down a dirt road because we were looking for a shell pipe, remember?
Yeah.
Halfway on the Hana Highway. We were like midway on the Hana Highway.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I forget the name of the little town, but we were looking for a place that sold seashell smoking pipes, you know, these little arc things. Oh, yeah, we got to go get one of those. So we get down in the bottom of this hill, and a guy comes behind us, and we can't back up, so we got to go out onto a little beach to let him turn around. Well, we get stuck out there, and the tide's coming in. I remember Kurt going, I said, "Go get us some wood. We'll get it under the tires." And I remember him coming back like some Japanese lady, because we're right in the middle. That's where all the Hawaiians live.
Yeah, we're a local town.
For some wood.
And of course, Dennis and I look like the Doobie Brothers. You know, we got hair down to our ass, both of us. You know.
Yeah. In fact, we got asked out on a bus. Are you the Doobie Brothers?
So I'll tell a part of the story that Dennis doesn't know because he wasn't with me. He goes, "Hey, go see if you can find some wood." So I walk up to this house, and I get like halfway up the driveway. I'm walking to the front door, and this dog comes and just was gonna rip me a new one, you know. And the lady comes out screaming and yelling, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" Blah, blah, blah. And I said, "Oh, you know," I tried to explain it away, and I just left. Well, the guy that pulled in behind us, he was a local, or he was from some other island. Remember the guy? Well, I don't remember his name, but he went up and talked to the lady, kind of in their pidgin language, Hawaiian way, and ended up getting some piece of wood. And we ended up, I think Dennis and I literally
Lifted
that car up and got it back up on the road. I mean, we were in panic mode. The tide's coming in, every wave's getting a little closer. We're on this little sandbar of a beach, It was crazy.
We got so beat up. Remember, we ended up in Hana that night, and then it rained. Remember, there was like
we set up
in our tent that night in Hana.
We set up a tent in a grassy field, right? It was pitch black. Man, we had flashlights, I think. We kept hearing these crunchy sounds. Well, the next morning, what those crunchy sounds were snails about that big around. They were everywhere on that grass. I remember that. And we
got soaked.
Sleeping in a puddle of water.
We got soaked. I remember you turning over at night and it'd go splash, splash.
Good times, good times.
Yeah.
On that same island, we went to places that you can't go now, like the famous waterfall that's there. I don't remember the name. They've used it in movies and stuff. Well, we could go right on when we went there when we were in our probably mid-20s, 26, 27. You could go right on a waterfall and look over the edge and go.
78, I thought.
Yeah. 78. Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah. So remember, you could get, now you can't get there. It's all fenced off. So,
right.
That was kind of cool.
No, and I remember us going out to the airport, like where Kaanapali is above Lahaina, and there was nothing out there. Remember, there was the squatters that were living out there. Now it's all hotels and everything. But when we were out
wasn't
there,
that on the
like
way to
road almost?
Didn't we do that on the way to Waimea Canyon?
That was our first day there. Remember, we went and had breakfast at the little place, and you thought they were going to kick our butts.
No,
where all the sugar cane
you're wrong.
In Lahui.
Right, in Lahui.
We went to breakfast at that little local spot where all the sugarcane workers were at.
Dennis had a book that was like how to do Hawaii on $10 a day. And one of them included this local little cafe that all the farmers went to. And here comes the Doobie Brothers walking in there at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And there's probably 20 people in there, and the whole place just went silent. And every eye is on us. So the waitress came in and, gave us a seat. But there was elections going on during that time. And I remember a guy running for mayor or something came in and shook everybody's hands and came over and kind of welcomed us there and kind of eased the tension. That was pretty weird. That was pretty weird.
Right. So those are good times.
Come back, Pat.
You're young and dumb.
So you guys let fences stop you? You should have went with me and little Danny. We didn't let fences stop us.
Well, there's no fences when we were there. Now there is.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Now there's fences. But actually, no. The last they had it all fenced off. We were there last time. Dennis and I were in Hawaii. 15 years ago.
We walked to it.
Yeah. Well, it's fenced off. We went around the fences. We didn't jump over them. You were recovering from some stomach surgery at that time. I remember.
Yeah. I remember I took an ounce of Lebanese hash with me to Hawaii. Remember that? I had that big ball of hash.
I don't.
So all the locals love to get high. Oh. That saved us a bunch of times from getting in trouble. So you want to get high, brother?
Bra. It's bra. You got the kind.
Yeah.
I guess that's appropriate for today.
Well, it's not. I didn't cuss.
It is what it is.
It is what it is,
So
in the
did
1970s in California,
So does anybody, Dennis, do you recognize the lake behind me?
Well, yesterday you said it was Big Bear.
Well, that was Big Bear. It's a new one. I switch it up.
So I'm saying it's Eagle Lake with the peninsula, and you're looking at Spalding.
Actually, that's Lake Tahoe.
Oh, okay, Tahoe. All right.
Hard to tell, Pat. You know, it's not like.
No, a lake is a lake. A mountain lake.
Yeah, it's got a shoreline and some
I
trees
would have
on
thought
it. You know?
Tahoe would have had more mountainous around it than what I'm seeing there.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Yeah.
we're facing east maybe there. I'm guessing.
Yeah, 'cause Tahoe seems to have a lot of white mountains around it most of the time. So,
Hey, that was some very
you
good
fooled
memory.
me.
Hey, Dennis,
Yes.
I was in Bishop, you know, just yesterday or the day before, and I was kind of wondering, what do you think of the trout opener at the end of the month? Think it's going to happen?
No. They
Yeah.
Inyo and Mono County don't have any cases. They don't want 10,000 tourists going up there,
Yeah.
and you can't blame them. You
Yeah.
know, because then the
Yeah.
influx.
That's
on
a
the
shame, but you
grocery
know how
stores-
much those towns depend on that money, though. You know what I mean?
No. It's a catch-22 for them because it's seasonal and that's their income. But then they gotta, you know, I don't know. I've been
Yeah.
reading a bunch in the Western Outdoors News about it, and you gotta understand. It's like Crescent City. They don't want a whole bunch of tourists coming into town, right, Smitty?
Right. Yeah. Same. Yep. I know what you mean.
Stay the fuck at home, right? I didn't.
Yeah.
cuss,
Well, here I just came back from a road trip. You know, so.
right.
I think I think all the campgrounds and everything are closed. But again, like Dennis says, I don't go out and explore that much. But I've heard they're all closed.
Yeah.
I don't think the trout opener is even going to happen up here. Where we usually go for a little thing up at Caribou. It's a little trout tournament on the opener, but I think it's all shut down. They just don't want people traveling and going out of their areas.
Yeah.
You know, but hey, there's only 15 cases in Butte County. It's been like that a long time. No one's died. There might be 2 people in the hospital, or maybe not even that. They're all home, you know, getting through it. So I think it's our little towns like Smitty's, like Butte County, they're going to try to open up first because there's such few cases, you know?
Yeah.
So unlike, I don't know, how many does San Diego have? Because I know LA has thousands.
I think I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm thinking under 1,000, but I could be way off. I mean, the last time I looked was like 2 weeks ago, and it was 217 because I had to take Linda to emergency
It's
on a
obvious
Monday.
people want to get out and work, you know, or just get back to some kind of normalcy, and you can't blame them for that, you know.
No.
I mean, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the protesters, but I can totally understand why they're protesting. Hey, if you know you haven't worked in a month, you need a paycheck. You need to pay your rent. You know, it's not like the banks are going to let you scoot on a month's mortgage, which they
Slide
should,
on your
but they're not
mortgage.
gonna.
Yeah.
I mean that's a tough call. You know. Tough
Yeah,
call for
and the
everybody.
banks could. The banks, if you have a mortgage, the banks could just say, okay, don't pay us for 3 months. We'll tack it on to the end. What difference
That's
would
what
it
they
make?
should do, but they're not saying that. But they should. I don't understand why they
Yeah.
don't.
There's a few simple little things they could do, you know, to ease it up for
They
everybody.
make their money in the end. So what's the big? I
That's the
don't know.
bank, so that's their
Let's
most
not
important
go
thing.
political on this thing. It's just
We're
a lot.
talking about banks. I think we can agree a lot on banks.
So I will say that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't get my PPP money, my payroll
I didn't
protection
get my
money.
$1,200 yet either.
Oh, I got that. Linda and I each got $1,200. That's going to
So is
pay
that
my
electronic?
rent.
Was that electronically in your bank?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
filed
see, I'm waiting on a paper check, so it could be a while for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard some news on that today. The first paper checks are going out now, but they're staggering it, and it's like the people who make $10,000 a year get the first ones.
That's
Um,
me. That's me.
It won't be till September until
My
like the
poverty.
upper end get it. Till September. That's when.
That's going to do a lot of good, right? That's
Yeah, I don't know. Mine's
That's
already
dumb.
spent. I had to go to the vet today, and it was $1,500. So yeah.
The vet.
So I don't get a couch.
The
So
vet.
you know what? I thought of a kind of an evil plan that I could do, and that would be I probably have about $40,000 or $50,000 in credit, just in credit cards. You know, I have one that's 25,000, one that's 10, one that's 8. I have
Careful
zero
what you say on
balance
this
on
show,
that.
Kurt.
Zero balance on them. All right.
Careful what you do.
Live off those things for what 40 grand probably I could live 4 or 5 months on, and then just claim bankruptcy. Everybody, look at the amount of people that are going to claim it. I know that's evil, and I'm not going to do it.
You can tell them something about that.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Have you ever went through a BK?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do we really want to go here?
Yeah, I did.
Well,
I did.
I don't know if it's a big secret. I did in 2013. It's no big secret. A lot of people did.
I did.
Yeah, it's a little shaming, but it is what it is.
I did it. It's probably 30 years ago, and it's kind of a rough period in my life. I don't feel good about it, and actually, I keep telling myself whether it's true or not. If I ever get ahead, I would like to go pay that off just for general purposes.
Now, does that still affect your credit rating today?
Oh no, I've got 800 plus. That's only
8 years. Then it affects your credit rating
for 8 years.
It's on your report. My credit rating right now is in the mid 700s, so it's not really great. Dennis, you're probably higher, it's funny how they rate credit. Like if you don't have any debt, you're not going to have a great credit rating. You have to have debt to have a credit rating. But,
no, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but at that worst period of my life with a ton of credit card debt, actually wasn't even that much, to be real honest with you.
Probably $6,000 or $8,000. Huh?
Probably closer to 20, probably. But they keep sending more and more. The more.
You told me it was 80.
No, well, it felt like it, but
that was me, Dan.
that was Kurt. But no, it's like when you start getting that hole, they just keep flooding them to you. So
I know they keep sending you cards, even though you're defaulted, huh?
Then you start paying cards off with cards, and then it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, that's a game you can't win right there. Yeah, it's what I learned in life. It's really easy to borrow money if you got a decent credit rating. I can get a business loan. I can get $100,000, no problem. And right now, in my situation, I get those offers all the time. The problem is you got to pay it back.
Knock it off.
Or you go through another bankruptcy.
Come here.
Yes.
But I'm in no position to take on debt. The last thing I want to do is take on debt.
Oh.
Hi, Stan.
So good show today. I think I didn't know
He's
how.
growling and barking.
I don't know, Kurt. Were you here at the beginning of my show?
No, I'll call you if you don't want to recap it right now, but I'd be interested.
I didn't know how it was going to go because, I had to do some housekeeping, but I think it went okay.
I already said something bad, and I didn't mean to. So,
but you caught it.
I did. I said something bad too, just to support you, Dan.
What's that?
I said something bad just to support you. You didn't even catch it. It's so natural.
Thanks for the brotherhood. Well, here's the problem. Like, I think Patrick brought that up when it's like, right now I'm in this mode where me, you, and Pat are having this conversation. We could be up in my room, and that's what it feels like. And I totally forget and get lost that there's other people watching and listening.
Yeah,
and I lose that, and it. I gotta be more on top of that because,
the good news it's only a few people right now, so that's the good news.
But it feels good when you get into the mode of just having a conversation with somebody and being yourself.
Yeah,
so that's where that might come from. And I certainly don't mean to, offend anybody with language. So
no, I think we did. I think maybe we had a new little start today, and I feel good about the direction it'll go.
I would hope if anybody messes up, people can accept apologies because we all mess up from time to time. We're all human.
Like I said, I get a little bit of satisfaction with stringing 3 or 4 good cuss words together. It kind of just rolls off the tongue. I feel pretty. Oh wow, that was a pretty good little. That was a good word right there.
So Kurt, are you back on your phone or are you on Linda's phone?
Well, that's kind of funny. I figured out a way to get on and see what I would do when I would see the Isabel's when I'd see the show on Isabel's page. I'd push on the picture and it would take me to like YouTube, right? And that or some other like channel. Maybe it's StreamYard. I haven't got that far yet, but when I was in that part, the link wouldn't work. But I noticed if I just stayed on Isabel's page, the link worked. So I kind of figured it out.
No, it's a little tricky. I think Damien was pointing that out earlier. But yeah, I think you have to. It's not intuitive, but you have to get on it from Facebook. But once you're on it, you're not on Facebook anymore.
Well, Kurt gave me some good pointers. I got my phone sitting on a rail on my fence in the backyard, so my lighting's better. But I'm not using my phone and move. I could tell my mother needs some help with her screen presence. Yeah, some of the other people do too. But thanks, Kurt, for the pointers.
Yeah, well, that's not a good angle looking down. You're looking right up your chin. There's shadow lines. It just isn't
or
a
looking
good
up.
angle.
You're saying looking up from the cameras is a bad look. So
yeah.
Another thing that people can do is before I put you on, you'll be able to see what you look like, so you can actually.
That helps.
You can, and it kind of gets you like to set up in the right lighting in the right angle.
I use that.
I spend a lot of time messing with that, but yeah, Damien was going to get a webcam for his PC, and that would make it real easy because that's a better platform as far as reading the comments and having a nice screen to look at everything. But I think those webcams are kind of hard to find nowadays.
So I think I'm going to go fishing in Almanor tomorrow, Kurt. Just going to walk into the Hamilton branch before the opener because I could fish it. Because I don't know if I could fish the opener. The opener's next Saturday. Last Saturday of the month. So
are your lakes closed? Is Oroville closed? Can you launch a boat at Oroville?
Well, I can walk in and fish it, but who wants to walk in and fish the shore of Oroville? Not me.
So you can't launch a boat at Oroville?
You can't. No.
What about
but you can walk in and fish the shoreline. What
about that place you took me? I don't think it was, I'm going to say the After Bay, but I don't think it was the After Bay. You took me in there. We were all lined
below
up.
the dam.
Yeah. What about
below
that
the
place?
dam?
Yeah, there's no social distancing going on over there.
Yeah, well, they got
people
all
are
that
elbow to elbow.
Broke.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of my old places that I used to fish, I can't fish anymore. So, yeah.
I don't see the sport fishing industry coming back real soon. I think it'll be one of the last because, that's a pretty confining area. You know what I mean?
I think private charters and limited loads might be kind of popular.
Yeah, and maybe people wearing masks, when they're fishing on the rail. I just can't stand to wear those masks. They bug the
Oh yeah, no, I go to the store with one on and I get claustrophobic. I can't wait to get out and then take it off.
Yeah.
Standing in line, waiting on somebody, and they're talking, and you're just going, "Come on, I want to get this mask."
The other day we were talking about people that wear masks in their car, and I feel the same way about people that wear masks when you see them walking their dogs down the street. I'm like, really? You really think you're going to get the COVID from the air? I don't know. I just find it hard to believe. If it was that communicable.
If I was somewhere like in New York City, I would consider that because it's so much more prevalent. But like Butte County with 15 cases, so what if there's 200 cases? I just don't think I'm going to get it walking around the street.
You don't have to worry about living in New York City. That's not your style.
Right. If I lived in New York City, I'd probably wear one and going outside my apartment.
Yeah, I think so. That brings up a good point that, when they put the rules for everybody in the country, and they're kind of using New York City as a model, saying they're doing this in New York City and they're doing that. Okay, well, that's New York City, We got
to start getting it open, and the real sense is you start opening up the places that have the fewest cases and see how it goes. And I think that's the model that they'll be running, but who knows?
Yeah.
Lots of models out there.
Yeah.
And our president always liked a good model.
Okay.
I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah,
actually, fond of models.
Still, today, like I said earlier, Crescent City I went to the post office. It was hopping. A lot of cars out today. Nothing. My business has, it's hard to say how much it slowed down, but I'm working pretty much as much as I ever do.
Well, a lot of businesses are. It's amazing. I mean, construction too. Peter was saying how he thinks it's the stimulus checks coming in that, or a lot of more people are out shopping.
That could be. That could be.
You know, and I think people, you know, you go 2 weeks without doing anything, that's a lot. You start going 4 and 5 weeks without doing anything and not having any, you know, you just like, you know, I'll take my chances. You know, I take my chances because.
Well, and especially like, I think last week we had some 80-degree days. We're going to have an 87-degree day, I think, on Thursday or Friday. You know, when the weather starts getting really nice, it's hard for people not to get out.
Yeah, definitely. It's we're going to have the same kind of weather in San Diego, and I'm going to be interested to see that people are going to want to go to the beach. They're going to want to go, you know. So,
and fishing. We want to go fishing.
Well, I'm not anxious to get on a boat with 30 or 40 different other people in close quarters like that, but I'd go fishing with my buddy Ken on his private boat.
Right.
Know.
Or how about Brandon Hayward?
Yeah, one-man charter or something like that.
Yeah,
sure.
Three of us can go out white sea bassing. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm up for that.
No,
you know, the problem is to go halibut fishing, but to go to the bay.
I caught a halibut last time I went fishing.
I know, it was a nice one. But to go to the bay, now we can't go to restaurants.
Right.
We don't really want to grocery shop down there. So we got to take everything that we're going to use. We're stuck on the boat. We can't go anywhere. So it's kind of like, it kind of defeats it a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
You know, we're like, do we really want to do that? You know, there's liveaboards on both sides of them.
They don't want you down there.
You don't want to use the bathroom at the yacht club, you know?
Hey, nice talking to you guys. Dinner's ready.
I got to go too. So
actually,
an empty screen here. Thank you, Smitty. You take up so much time.
No, that's
nice seeing you, Kurt. It's been a while.
Yeah. No, keep in touch.
Thank you guys for coming on. I always appreciate it. It was great. I think it turned out to be a pretty decent show today. And actually, I do have a customer coming over here, and probably within a half hour, I got to get 250-pound barrel in his truck, which is always nice. What do you do with cash? When someone hands you cash, what do you do with it in a business? It's so easy to put it in your pocket, but what do you do?
I know they all want to pay you cash, I bet, huh?
Well, it's a big cash business. Yeah, that's a tricky one because I have a partner.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, that's it. You know what? It's a good time. We finished in about 2 hours. It'll be a pretty prompt show today. I think
it was really nice seeing my mom and your mom on, and it would be real nice to get Donna and Joy's sis. You know, I always want to. What I always am more interested in is the times in Missouri and when they were living on the river because they had brothers or uncles that were named Popeye and Deadeye and.
I think that was Grandma's dad, if I remember right.
I would love to hear more stories from them about that time.
I think they have them. So yes, no, actually, I was thrilled today when they got on together. I think that greased the wheels a little bit. So we'll have
hopefully
to
Damien will help my mom get her screen shot a little better. But
yeah, what he needs to do is set up a little, maybe a desk with a chair where the camera's fixed and the lighting's right. And yeah, I think it does help when we can have a stable camera for sure.
I feel like I'm being a screen hog right now. So thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Dennis. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Well, big screen coming up. There we go. Well, that was you know what? Thank you, Mom. More is always what Danny Wells. If you're listening, I'm sure my mom will probably rewatch this. She tends to do that. Yeah, actually, I honestly didn't know how today's show was going to go. Maybe Khaki could get a set of headphones too, Danny Wells. Maybe Damien can work on that, a set of wireless ones or wired ones if they get the PC working. But wasn't sure how today's show was going to go. We're about 2 hours in, so it's probably a good time to wrap things up. As always, I appreciate people walking in and watching for a minute or two, popping in. It's awesome. Numbers are pretty, 6, 7, 8 people. That's good enough. That's fine for a family thing. And I like the regulars. Thought it was a decent show today. I'm glad I kind of got that off my chest about, hopefully I don't want to offend anybody, but probably not a bad idea to try to curb some of the profanity if we can. But other than that, it's time. It's about 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2, 1, 2-hour show. Thank you for coming in. I think we'll wrap it up. I don't have any plans tomorrow at this point, so I'll probably be on at 4, maybe later in the week. Like I said, I have a kind of a long day, and I should be able to, if I get up early, which I'll try. I can do that, and get that day over with by 4. And we'll keep the schedule. I'd like to do a 2:00 show one of these days pretty soon to accommodate some of the older women, and we will work on that. So having said that, David Dietz, Dan Wells, I see you up on the chat, the Peanut Gallery. Take care, guys, and peace, love, and happiness, and happy 420. Good day, everybody.